Greetings, Tezos Nation. Thanks for joining me on another edition of TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons. Joining me today is Ade Adeyemo, CEO and co-founder of Joko. Joko, for those who might not know, is the Tezos-powered video streaming platform and content marketplace focused on telling the unique story of global recording artists. Joko is a recent Tezos Foundation's grantee, and we're all very excited to have them on board here in the Tezos ecosystem. On today's stream, we'll be giving away 5 whitelist spots to claim a first-generation Joko NFT, as well as 1 Tezos-branded Nano Ledger to our lucky TezTalks Live viewers. If you'd like one of those lucky viewers to be you, keep an ear out for our keyword later on during the stream. And of course, if you have any questions for Ade that you'd like me to ask, please add them in the chat at any time. We'll get to as many as we can before we wrap up. Hi, Ade. How are things in your neck of the woods?
Good, Stu. Thank you for having me. Things are nice. It's warm. The food is good. I'm currently in Lagos, Nigeria. Fantastic.
Very nice. To get us started, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got started in your journey into the exciting world of blockchain tech?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is actually in banking. I worked for 7 years at a large investment bank. Half of it on the East Coast of the United States, and then the other half took me to Seattle, Washington. When I got to Seattle, I actually, while I was across the cubicle on the East Coast, I had this colleague of mine, and that was when people were just kind of dabbling into Bitcoin. And so after that, I went to a couple of Bitcoin meetups when I moved to Seattle, and it was largely concentrated or focused on Bitcoin and Ethereum. But I was just curious, and I never really did think that I'd be doing any work on anything with the blockchain, but my curiosity, I guess, has led me here.
Very cool. And what got you started down the path to co-founding Joko? What was the inspiration for the project?
Yeah, okay. So in the bank, it's a very, at least what I was doing there was a lot of solutions-driven environment. So, the client has an issue, you're thinking of like, how do we create a solution for their financial problems? Well, I had friends. I've always been curating playlists, like for many years. I still do it, actually. It's one of my favorite hobbies. But staying on top of music, streaming kind of evolved into listening to the big name artists, but then you start finding these gems by artists that aren't signed to labels. And one common denominator for a lot of the artists I was meeting or following at the very early stages of their careers was you want to be an artist, but your day job is taking up of this time, and then the art side is not paying the bills. So you focus on what's paying the bills, and then the story becomes I no longer do music. And I didn't like that. And I thought, there had to be a way to make artists earn better. And it really just started like sitting in the bank. And I even remember the first time I thought about like, how do we use this like marketplace approach or some kind of solution to help artists start, to earn better. And we started out with concert tickets. That was like how I was thinking about it back in the day. But that was how it all started. I just kind of kept tinkering with the idea, and here we are now.
Very cool. So for those who might not be familiar yet, what exactly is Joko? Can you explain what you're building here?
Yes, I'll explain it. Maybe later I'll show it a little bit. But
That would be
essentially,
cool.
what Joko is, yeah. Joko is a video streaming platform, but it's multi-sensory. So it combines the worlds of art, music, and film. At its core, what we're doing is we're optimizing video streaming revenue for recording artists, because that's our focus at this time, such that the earnings are higher and the payout is delivered in real time instead of waiting weeks, as is the case on other platforms. But on the surface, if you're a viewer, what you're going to experience is, aside from the art and music, is a documentary about your favorite musician that presents them in a very authentic and original way that you probably may not have seen, about this person. You get to really know who this human being is. And that's what we offer. And we do this, it's a curated process right now. So we're doing it with artists globally, and we're just shooting these documentaries and layering it on our platform, which is, of course, powered by Tezos.
Okay. And can you explain what part Tezos plays in the project and what the connection is there?
Yes. So um, The underlying technology is token gated video streaming tech. And what it is really, you know, when you want to watch content, it's a content marketplace. So you need tokens that give you access to the content. When we started out with Joko, we actually built this marketplace manually. But then later on, we realized that our technology needed to be stronger, more transparent, and people didn't really trust something so random. They were like, "Is there another person on the other side, or is this tech just spitting out numbers?" And we've replaced that with marketplace infrastructure built on Tezos. So all of that code that when Stu buys a token and he's no longer watching it and sell it to someone else, all of that is replaced by Tezos infrastructure. So Tezos plays the role of our content market, or plays the foundational role in our content marketplace.
Okay. So your decision to build this with Tezos. What was it about Tezos specifically that made it appealing to you? Like why was it the right blockchain for this project?
Yeah. I checked with a couple of blockchains. At the time, we were deciding what blockchain to build on. Ethereum was too expensive in terms of fees. So that was the first thing that we knew like we needed to get a hold of, because when we built it off chain, the payment processor was eating into our fees and our royalties, and it was making it difficult for us to help artists, make it a more rewarding experience for artists. So the first thing was fees, and I heard about Tezos because some of my friends had been minting work on Hicketnock at the time, and I decided to check it out. I saw that the fees were so cheap, and it was actually cheaper than the off-chain payment processor we were using. And I was like, wow, this is a breakthrough. So I went in there just to check fees, and then I expanded to checking the user flow, and then I discovered this amazing community of artists, and it was like, well, I guess this is it. It was a no-brainer.
Very cool. And that eventually led you down a path to coming into contact with the Tezos Foundation. So, can you tell us how you came into contact with the Tezos Foundation, what the process was like becoming a Tezos Foundation grantee, what those conversations look like?
Sure, I'm happy to share. This is my experience, so I don't know that it would be the same for another person. But
Of course, of course.
when we wanted to work on Tezos, I was looking online. I did Google just what kind of entity could support this kind of project on Tezos, and I found an incubator, and I found the Tezos Foundation. So I touched base with the incubator first, actually, and I was just saying to them, we want to build this. We know Tezos is the right place for this. I've also seen that the Tezos Foundation already exists, and in talking with the person at the incubator, he suggested, maybe you should also talk to them, and that was how I ended up reaching out. And there was a welcoming group of people, and I told them exactly what I was wanting to build on Tezos, and they just told me what the process was. I filled out a grant application. It's very thorough. So I'll tell you that. It's a very thorough application. It asked all the questions. And by the time I was done filling it out, it's like, wow, I guess you're working with people that really do know like what's going on here. Like for example, if and this actually happened, if you're pitching to an investor, you're kind to let them know what your dream is. And I took that approach actually the first time I wrote the grant application, and it was kicked back. And I had a meeting, and they told me, well, you should go into the details. Like, let's talk about the APIs you want to use. Let's talk about what other Tezos applications you're going to be integrating with. Nice to hear your dream, but let's go into the nitty gritty of it. So that's probably not changed for anyone that will be applying. I would really encourage that you act like you were building it on Tezos before you apply, just do some research. And eventually I got in after rewriting the application a second time. And I was very excited about that. And the experience has been really fantastic. It's been much more support than I thought. Initially I thought it was just business and technical, but I even help with marketing. They've done introductions with some entities we would like to connect with, and it's just really been a great experience so far. I would encourage it for anyone that's able to go through the process.
So that process of applying and having and being
Mhm,
asked those sort of tougher questions, did that make
mhm.
you think about this project in a different way and maybe consider some aspects of it that you might not have thought about before those questions were asked?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So it was funny because the commentary when it was sent back was also very detailed. The person was telling me exactly what they wanted to know.
Mhm.
And at the time I had to go research it, because it was a little vague, or when specifics were asked for, I had to go research it, and it almost started feeling like we had started building it on Tezos because we were trying to answer these questions. So that was very helpful because when we started, we had a better idea of what to do,
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
like trying to like figure it out.
I mean, it is interesting to sort of have this idea, realize that there is a fit with a blockchain, and then
Mhm.
work through how to make those two things fit together, right?
Yes, yes. And I think it's a relieving feeling too because when we built the first iteration, I knew based on going to the meetups and things that the transactional nature of our business, there's probably some intersection with blockchain tech, but I didn't want to like force it. So
Yeah.
we were just going to give NFTs as souvenirs to the first few people that came in, but everything was off chain. And then later when we decided we're going into the blockchain, it was nice after going through the process to see how everything fits. And you discover these other tools where it's like you're not the first person to think of this, and then you just integrate. It's
Very
really
cool.
fantastic. It's yeah,
So you've gone through that process. You've connected with the
yeah,
Tezos Foundation. You've become a grantee, and now you're officially building Joko out.
yes.
For obviously we've seen streaming platforms before. How
Hmm.
is Joko different from the streaming platforms and content marketplaces we might be used to? What sets it apart?
Okay, so when you're watching a piece of content on a streaming platform today, you're just going to click play and you watch, and hopefully it streams well, and that's it. Which is a really straightforward process, and I'm not knocking that at all. But what we do is we combine all these different things to make it's a more holistic process, really, with Joko. So I'll explain now. If you are a fan and you're coming in here, maybe you like collectibles. Well, our collectibles are designed by really prominent Tezos artists, that people are putting out work on the Tezos ecosystem. If collectibles is not your thing and you like documentaries, well, our documentaries are the kind of stories that you can't really find on another streaming platform, and it's your favorite musician, right? And if that's not really your thing, if music is what you like, every documentary has a performance or two or even three sometimes.
Mhm.
And I'll give you a little sneak preview here. For the couple that we've shot, the artists perform music that isn't even available. So there's this like part of Joko that pertains to all these your different senses. That's what we offer that makes it different from other streaming platforms. But we're still doing the work of making sure that the artist is earning better, which was
Yeah.
what we set out to do. It just now has become a nice, wholesome experience.
So a little bit of a peek behind the curtain as well as getting the content itself.
Yes.
Very cool. Um, Great stuff so far. I'm excited to learn more. But before we get into the nitty gritty, are you ready for the world famous Tez Talks lightning round?
Yes.
Just before we do that, I'll announce today's keyword for the Joko NFT whitelist spots and the Tezos branded nano ledger we're giving away today. Today's keyword is exclamation point Joko, Joko. Enter the keyword exclamation point Joko in the live stream chat, and Nightbot will randomly select today's winners, who will announce before the end of the stream. Okay, now Ade, it's lightning round time. Remember,
Let's do
there are
it.
no wrong answers. This is just for fun, so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes, I am.
Beaches or mountains?
Beaches.
Good choice. Pizza or sushi?
Sushi.
Music or music videos?
Music.
Choice. Is this real life or are we in a simulation?
100% simulation.
Good to know. True or false? Money buys happiness.
False.
Name one thing you absolutely want to do before you die.
I'm doing it.
Excellent answer. The last place you traveled was?
Lagos, Nigeria.
And there you are right now. In 5 words or less, how would your best friend describe you?
Quirky, thoughtful, uh, a handful, animated,
Yeah.
interesting.
Very
Is
good.
that
That's
five?
5. Yep, that's 5.
Solid.
You're out of words. And finally, what is your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
It's interesting you asked that. It rains a lot in Seattle. Um, okay. I like to listen, like watch the rain. If there's water, if there's a water body around, I like to watch the rain, like when it's like falling on the water.
Very
I
nice.
have that memory in my head because there's an apartment that I stayed that was right by the water in Seattle.
I thought you were going to say your favorite thing is to fill out grant applications.
Yeah, those are fun too.
Excellent answers. This concludes the Tez Talks lightning round. Let's get back into it. Um, Obviously, platforms like yours and sort of this whole shift towards tokenization in the music business represents a significant paradigm shift for both artists and music consumers. First off, in your opinion, what does Joko have to offer to a musical artist?
Okay. So, first off, we help you earn better video streaming royalties. But aside from that, when you work with us as an artist, you're really controlling your narrative. It's an opportunity for you to tell people who you really are. You see, with these documentaries, we follow the artists around. They design how they want their documentary to be. We just work with them to make it a nice production. And I think that's a really fun thing for the artists too, at least in our experience so far, is they find that to be very engaging. And it feels like with other things, I'm just told, do this. But with this, it's like I'm the one creating my documentary.
Mm.
So that's like controlling your narrative is actually really important to artists, as we found out. Now, there are artists that are very curious about the blockchain, like many other people, but in the creative side of things, musicians actually want to know. I know this technology exists, and I know that there's some stuff within the creator economy or whatever you may call it, but they don't know how and what we do or how to reach people that are even interested with them, like are interested in them, like they're blockchain native fans. And so what we do is, in a really nice way, we aggregate your blockchain native fans and you can engage with them. So rather than going all out there and music NFT and hoping random people just to come purchase it, here we found people that are interested in you as an artist. They like what you have to offer, and we create a means for you to continue engaging with them in the long term, which is I think it's a very unique value proposition. Overall, there's this ambiguity as to how do I approach this quote unquote Web3 space. There's all this blockchain. When you work with us as an artist, we really do set you up to look nice. Like we know how the tokens should look, we know how the documentaries should feel. We're actually doing the blockchain. We're not people standing on the sidelines using our imaginations to think of what could be. I mean, we do rely heavily on our imaginations, but we're in it. So we understand what it should feel like. And when we work with artists, it kind of reduces the probability that there's a misstep when they try to do it themselves. as opposed to working with us.
Okay. So in terms of the documentary itself as well as the tokens, once an artist becomes involved with Joko, do you take the creation of that stuff out of their hands, or is it more collaborative?
You mean like the documentaries? You mean, right? And the tokens?
Well, if I'm a musician and I
Yeah.
decide, okay, I'm going to work with Joko, I'm going to make one of these documentaries.
Mhm.
Would it be a matter of coming to an agreement with you, and then the next day a film crew shows up at my house and starts recording, or would I be producing a documentary myself and then giving you the content afterwards?
Oh, it's actually sort of like the former. It's actually the former. So
Okay.
we have a team that follows you around. That's why we move around too. Um, it's there's a process, there's a pre-production process where when we make contact with an artist that we would like to work with and wants to work with us, there's a lot of questions. It's like, how do you want this to go? And we actually make a mood board for them, and they like circle things. It
Yeah.
starts to feel like it's a photo shoot of sorts, except it's video. And when we decide on what those things are, um, we just execute on them with our production team, and we film that. So,
Okay.
for example, we've had an artist that likes cooking, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you guys come by and let's make a meal while I tell you about my art and my life?"
Okay.
That was actually our first one. Yeah,
How was the food?
it was fantastic. It was shrimp and couscous,
Very
the
nice.
best I ever had. Yeah.
Okay. So that's sort of the offering from Joko to the artist. What does Joko have to offer to a music fan or a music consumer?
Okay. So, if you're a fan, let me. I brought a prop, so I think maybe it will give some perspective. Okay.
Okay, let's
So
have a look.
check this out. This is a CD. Oh, oh,
I remember
camera. Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
Good.
Right. And think of this as our token. Our smart contract means these, right? Now, this is the album art made by a digital artist that's already minting work on Tezos. And, back in the day, you could take these and sometimes they will turn into a poster or like lyrics, something fun, you know, something interesting. Questlove, okay. Um, but then you could put that, let's say it was a poster, you could put that on your wall. But when you have the token, it gives you access to, oops, the documentary, which is like that. So for everybody that has a cover art that maybe they've put on their wall, the artist now, because it's digital, the artist now knows like, okay, these are the wallets with this cover art, and they can send you music that's unreleased. They can send you images. We support any type of metadata, but you now start to get all these exclusive gifts from the artists. And that's sort of the long-term relationship we build with artists, but that's also how it starts to feel for the fan. You're like, you started out with watching a documentary, but you ended up becoming like sort of an exclusive fan
Mhm.
of this artist.
Okay. It is a really interesting concept, digitizing. It sounds like sort of digitizing that experience of rather than just purchasing a song, I'm purchasing a piece of art that's chosen by that musician. I'm purchasing the information that's inside. Maybe it's the lyrics, maybe it's some insight into their lives, as well as the actual content itself. Is that am I
Yeah.
am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. However, one misconception that I've found people to have over time is the documentaries are not on the tokens. So you need the token to watch the documentary. We don't put the documentaries themselves on the tokens.
So it's a tokenized pass to access the documentary. Okay.
Yes, and then things start of sort of extend beyond just watching a documentary. What's interesting is we left the concept of concert tickets that we started, but now our passes can serve as concert tickets.
Of
So,
course.
it all came around.
Okay. Um, Now, once I've used my token, accessed the documentary, am I able to pass that on to somebody else so they can also watch the documentary?
Yes, on a marketplace like Rarible or Object.
Okay.
And it goes through the same process as listing your token, your collectible on either of those marketplaces. Except our smart contract has been designed specifically for this purpose. So, there's royalty splits that happen whenever there's a change of hands on the tokens, if it's a transaction. You can gift them to your friends, but maybe sell it. I don't know.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
decide.
Makes sense. Um, so obviously, in order for this to sort of take wing, it's going to
Mhm.
involve attracting users and attracting artists to this platform. Can you
Mhm.
walk us through your roadmap a little bit as far as how you plan to go about attracting users and attracting artists to your platform?
Okay. So for users, with a lot of startups, there's a process. Sometimes, sometimes founders may build like for scale without going through the initial users that are actually interested. Um, what we do, and our first step, is to work with people that are already playing on Tezos and already know what's going on, or on the blockchain. Maybe they have Tezos for Ethereum, Solana. But you're playing on blockchain, you're a blockchain native user. That's our first customer. But we know also that there are a lot of blockchain curious people. And so what we're doing is for the blockchain curious folks, this is a really cool entry point because it's something that's familiar, you can connect with, it's a cultural center, if you may, when you think of a musician. It makes it easier to say, okay, I'd like to try. Maybe I'll open a wallet if I'm going to watch a documentary on the roots. But in time, we're going to expand this to include people that are just out there. We can't grow faster than blockchain adoption. However, we are going to do our best to kind of keep on pace. So
Okay.
that's sort of the plan. Now, when it comes to artists, we take a very curated approach now. So, like I said, I curate music, and my friends, my colleagues, all of us are like listening to what's new and who we think is impressive, and we also listen to other people that are curating, and we just decide like this is someone that we think would be a good fit at this time. But we also welcome people reaching out to us
Hmm.
always, and I will, before the show is over, I would actually leave my email in case there's artists that want to work with us. We started out reaching out to artists individually, realized that it might be easier to reach out to groups that work with artists, so like collectives or
Yep.
labels or entities or media houses that work with a large group of artists. And that's our approach now. And it seems to be working better because when you reach out to one artist, maybe things don't work out. You spend quite some time trying to do a documentary, but when you reach out to a label, there's a couple of artists to choose from in case things don't work out with one. So that's our acquisition strategy for now.
Okay. We've had a couple of audience questions that have come through here. Autes2223 would like to know if you have Twitter. Maybe you could share your handle so people can follow you if they want
Yeah,
to keep up to date.
yeah, absolutely. Wait, I need to make sure about that. Hold on a second. I don't
Okay.
want to give you the wrong one. Yeah, that's it. I'm right. Hey.
Okay. It's at AH underscore day 13, or also at Joko Media. Either one will work.
Yes.
And we also have a question from somebody named Regular Guy HQ who asks questions on here often, who's asking if within your platform, if you're thinking of adding a messenger feature so that fans can make comments and reach out to artists who are involved with Joko and active on the site.
Right now, we don't have that, but I'm going to take note of this. However, in my experience, we will, if we're to go with this, if we're to go this route, we would we would be very intentional in how we execute, such that,
Mhm.
have you ever read YouTube comments? Some of them can be gnarly. We don't want to put artists that we work with in that position. So we will think about a intelligent way that makes it balanced for the user and the artist, but still draws that connection. Thank you.
It
Thank you
is
for bringing that up.
it is an interesting thought, in terms of if this platform effectively is sort of bridging the gap between the consumer and the artist, and bringing them together in a very specific way, that you know
Mhm.
the offering of being able to communicate with these artists that you follow, or that you're interested in, or that you're sort of in theory investing in, it's an interesting angle for sure. So thank you, Regular Guy HQ, for that question.
Go
Um,
ahead.
Now you touched on this a moment ago, but I wanted to find out a little bit. So in terms of the artists that you've been in contact with so far, and the ones that, as I understand it, you have already recorded some of these documentaries, you're already actively working with some artists. What has the response been like from the artists that you've spoken to so far in this journey?
The first thing that catches the artist's attention is like, wait, you say you can make my streaming revenue much better? Yeah, okay. And I don't have to do anything but do my documentary. Yeah, it's like a no-brainer. That's usually the reaction we get. But I use that as a segue to start to educate them about the blockchain. Of course, what Joko does, but I think it's important that they know how this stuff works, so that when it's live, there's less of a confusion. Obviously, there's going to be questions, but that's usually the response we get. It's Yeah, it's streaming. It's better. It's my documentary. No downside, really. It doesn't feel like there's any
It's
downside to
free
them.
content. Everybody needs content, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned, you talked a little bit about your interaction with the Tezos Foundation. It sounds that's all been very smooth and very supportive, and sort of helped you use it as a launching pad. I'm curious, in terms of your contact with the Tezos ecosystem and community in general, what
Mhm.
has the response been like there? Do you think people are aware of what you're doing? Do you think they understand what you're doing, or is it just at a stage where you're introducing it right now?
Some of it has to do with, we're not so much out into the world yet, and some of it has to do with the fact that we've been focused on building on the tech side, on the content library. But what I found is that when we talk to the people that are already on Tezos, and we talk to artists, because I really think when it comes to collectibles, at least, artists collect the most and kind of understand it as with much detail. It's a good deal. So we connect with artists we want to work with, and so far it's nice because they ask the right questions about like
Yeah.
royalty splits and like how, what the secondary market would look like. I think at least the first three that we've connected with, they've responded positively, and we hope that it would remain that way. So
Okay.
far so good from the Tezos community. In the coming months, we'll start doing some marketing so that we sort of come out to the world. We'll come out of hiding, so to speak.
That was my next question. What's next for Joko? Like, do you have any specific things that you're going to be rolling out, or specific announcements that people should look forward to in the days ahead?
Yes. Um, so we plan to have our beta in Q1. So roll that out, and we'll start to collect names, addresses of people that are interested. But also, we're going to be having activations. So these are going to be small, nice events focused on music and just people that are like-minded, and maybe some of the artists we work with will attend, just to talk about the blockchain, learn about it, and also learn about Joko. But we'll be doing that in real life across different locations. So there's one plan for Lagos, there's one plan for Seattle. We haven't fully mapped out that strategy yet in terms of where we're doing it, but we know those two for now.
Yeah.
So those activations are going to begin ahead of our beta. And other than that, we're going to be adding people to the team. So we're actually looking for a marketing person. If you are interested in marketing and you understand your way around the Tezos environment. Better if you even collect tokens on Tezos. We'd be interested to talk. Yeah, so those are the things we're going to be doing more on the outside facing side of things. Internally, we're just working on our content and making sure that our technology is strong. Our smart contract is currently being audited.
Very cool. So if somebody was interested in getting involved that maybe wanted to apply for that marketing position, how would they get a hold of you?
They can email me if you would like to apply or suggest a position that you think might be a good fit. Email me directly.
That's
And
Ade
if you're
at
an artist,
playjoko.com, correct?
yes. And if you're an artist and you think, or a manager, or you work with a collective, reach out to me as well if you think there's a probability that we could work together.
Okay. We're just coming to the end of our time here. Before we
I like
close
that
off,
question. Can I answer that question though? From OTES 2223?
sure, I'll bring it through now. Do you
I'm
struggle
sorry.
to get the artists to understand the blockchain in general and how it will work for them?
I wouldn't say I struggle, but there's definitely some explaining to do. It's not a struggle. A lot of the artists we've worked with, some of these models already exist. Royalties. We're not starting royalties again. It's something that already exists. It's like somebody listens to it, and then you got. So I wouldn't say it's a struggle, but there is some learning to be done when you start getting into splits and you're adding a picture. But I think that we're good at distilling it in a way that artists can connect with. Generally, I've not come across an instance where an artist said, I don't understand this, I can't do it. Most of them, all of them, have been able to understand after we've explained it to them.
Very cool. Okay, now we're really almost at the end here. Before we close off, I'll
Okay.
announce the winners of today's Joko NFT whitelist spots and the Tezos branded Nano Ledger. The winner of the Tezos branded Nano Ledger is Bond 007, and the winners of the whitelist spots are Mainly Mobiles, Autez 2223, Ghost, Dalton, and HG Bolte. Congratulations. To claim your prizes, just email us at social@tezoscommons.org. We'll request a screenshot for verification that you're the account owner, and then we'll get your shiny new whitelist spots and ledger over to you just as quick as we can. For those who missed out today, we remind you there are awesome giveaways to be found frequently here on the TezTalks live stream, so keep tuning in. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our social media contacts can be found at tezoscommons.org/TezTalks. We'd love to hear from you, good or bad. Ade, thanks so much for joining us today. It's always awesome to speak to the folks building cool projects like Joko here in the Tezos ecosystem and keeping Tezos at the forefront of the blockchain revolution. Is there anything else you'd like to mention or plug or talk about before we sign off here?
Follow us on Twitter and just look out for our beta. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can promise you that.
And that Twitter, once again, is at Joko Media, correct?
Correct.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks again to everyone out there in Tezos land. Thanks for joining us on the TezTalks live stream. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons, and our awesome guest has been Ade Adeyemo, co-founder and CEO of Joko. Now let's go support musicians.
Okay.